Okay, forgive me, I wasn't recording, so I'll quickly recap. We're going to talk about the fact that I've got exercises for you to do for practice, and I can give you more if you want. But I just wanted to demonstrate at least once doing a DDL, okay, a data definition language trigger, right? And I thought for fun, we'd do one where we track all the changes to the DML triggers in our database. So I'm using the Ironwood database here. This create table command will just make a table to store the information generated inside the trigger itself, right? So we're going to store the date time of the type of trigger, okay, what the actual command was, and both of those we're actually going to pull out of the XML that's available itself. I'll show you how we're going to do that in a minute. And we'll also, of course, log the name of the person so we can give them praise for their good work, right? There we go. So I have my table created. All right. Now we'll go and we'll make the actual trigger. A little more room here on the screen. Okay. They're going to create trigger, okay, on database, right? I'm not going to do this across the server. It's just in this one database that we're going to make my DML triggers trigger, all right? It is for just these three commands, okay? Create, alter, and drop trigger, right? So if I do any DML triggers inside here, it's going to actually trigger this DDL trigger itself, okay? So I'm going to set no count on. Have you talked about set no count? It's one of the options. It hasn't been important up to this point, so that's why you probably haven't talked about it, but we're going to be talking about it more going on as we do our own stored procedures. The idea of, well, you've all seen it, that you run a query and in the little bottom part of the screen it says X records affected, right? 3 records affected, 1 record affected. Well, that's the built-in count system that is in the database itself. Do you really always need to know how many records are affected? Sometimes it's useful information and important, but other times it's really not. Especially if you do a select, right? And you have the actual records. You don't need it separately to clog up the pipeline, sending you a message of how many records were just returned, right? They're right there in front of you. You can see them. So sometimes we set no count. I know it's a backwards thing. Why didn't you say set count off, right? But it's set no count on means, no, we're going to suppress that extra network traffic of sending that message about how many records were affected, right? You'll see it's commonly used in stored procedures if it's not critical to send that as a separate piece of information. Okay. Then we're just making a variable here. Notice the data type of this variable is XML. Comes from a built-in, okay, function called event data. And we'll see what that looks like in a couple minutes, right? So now inside my trigger, I'm going to insert into that little table I just made a minute ago, okay, the event type, okay, the actual code of the trigger, the XML, the total amount, and then the login name, where we're going to get the values from. Well, this looks a little strange at first, but it'll make more sense when we look at the actual XML itself. It's identifying what nodes in the hierarchical XML arrangement we're actually pulling the data from. So we're going to go into the event instant node. There's an event type inside, and we'll pull the data out of there, right? Same thing here to get the actual TSQL command and store that in the DDL, event DDL. And of course, the name, okay, there's a built-in function that gives us the name of the user who's logged in, so we know who to give praise to or blame for doing something they shouldn't have done, right? That's it. So we'll create this trigger. Make sure I select the right text. Okay. Oh. Didn't I say make sure I select the right text? I said that, but I didn't do it. There we go. Oh, I deleted it. Okay. I pressed delete instead of... I guess when I press enter, I replace it. Control Z, I have to click execute. There we go. I've only had 1 coffee this morning. Okay, we'll have to have a coffee break soon. All right, so now we have our DML trigger in place. So now I can create, sorry, our DDL trigger is in place. So now I'm going to make an actual DML trigger. This is the exact one out of that exercise assignment I posted, right? We're going to create a trigger okay, on university enrollment after insert, right? So what do we want to do? We're inserting a new enrollment record, right? If I come over here, let me pull up the tables. Let me put my glasses on as well. Got a brand new pair of glasses, my first time using them. I like the little circular kind of look. What do you think? Look good? Yeah, I like them. They're very light too. They're titanium or something. They're light as a feather. Okay. All right, so let me just have a look here. So the tables we're working with, probably hard to see from the back of the room, but you'll be able to see it in the video. University enrollment, right? Columns, just the two foreign keys, student ID and section ID, and they both make up the combined primary key, right? There's room for a grade there as well. So that's what we're inserting data into there. But if we come down to the university section table, right here. A couple of fields I want to point out here in particular. There's a max enrollment, right? Ooh, that stores the maximum number of students we're allowed to enroll in the section. So that's something we're going to check. Are we going to break that rule if we allow this enrollment to happen? And there's denormalized data there, the current enrollment. That's an example of the kind of thing we were talking about, like how many employees are in a department. You could always go find out the current enrollment with a simple select, right? But instead, we're storing that as information in the database itself. So that's what we're going to maintain that, but we'll use the maximum enrollment figure to make sure we're not going to violate a rule, right? So the steps I have outlined here in my comments, find out what section the student's enrolled in, okay? Because remember, all we have in this record that was inserted is basically the student ID and the section ID, right? We'll make sure the section isn't full, okay? And if it is, we'll do one thing. If it's not, we'll do something else. Basically, we'll increase the record of how many students are enrolled in the section, right? And that's basically what we want to do. So I'll just kind of take it a step at a time here, unless I mess up with my copy-paste, okay? So to find out what section the student's enrolled in, okay, I'll just make a variable, and I'll just select from what table? The inserted table, right? This is an insert trigger. So that's the name of the temporary system table that has the data that was just inserted. So when I pull data out of there, the section ID will give me what section the student was being enrolled in, right? Now we're going to make sure it's not full, so I'll have to go find out bit of information here, right? So I'll grab, okay, the maximum enrollment as well as what the current enrollment is, okay, from my university section, where the section ID matches, of course, the section that we're adding the student to, right? So now I know the two things I need to know. Then I can make an if, right? You know what? I'm going to mess up if I try to copy paste a little bit at a time in the next bit. So forgive me if I just pull it all in at once, but we'll kind of talk our way through it. Okay, so then we check if, all right, is our current enrollment, have we reached the maximum? Okay, then it's full. Then we can't let them go ahead and add this one. We're already full, right? So we'll roll back the transaction. We'll just say, hey, section is full, right? Else, section is not full. Okay, we're going to let the insert that's already happened, remember it's an after trigger, right? It's already happened, so we're going to leave it alone, but before we leave our trigger, we're going to make sure that we increase that denormalized data. Our current enrollment will plus equal, right, 1 to it. So we'll add 1 to the current enrollment because we just inserted one record, and that's it. Okay, so that's our DML trigger, and that is the solution to the first one. So now we've kind of walked through it, so you should have an idea how to do the next two in the practice exercise. So I'll execute this. I won't press enter this time. Burned my lesson. Execute that. There we go. So we've added that trigger. Now, I'll leave it up to you when you're doing the exercise. You can test your triggers and make sure they're actually working. What I'm focused on right now is, did my DDL trigger catch that event? And I can find out by looking in my log file, okay? Or log table, I guess I should say. So I'll do a select from there, and here we go. So you see what we got. I will move this back up on the screen a bit for the back of the room. All right, so that's the event date, the date and time. that I created a trigger, my event type. There is the actual code, but where do we get that from? Of course, you can see who to blame, okay? The login name, nc/me, right? But if I click this, it opens up a little tool I can see here. So here's all the data that comes from that built-in function, right? So here's everything that we might possibly want to know about this event itself is in here, including all the command text and so on. Remember what the two things were we were after, right? Let me scroll back up here. Okay, the event instance, event type. Well, we can see that here. Event instance, that's this node up at the top. The event type is right under it, okay? Create trigger. So that's how we were able to parse that information out of the XML, okay, by using this nice little expression here. Going dot value and specifying the nodes that we want to dig down into the XML with, right? The TSQL command, of course, that came from right here, right? And that is how we got the data to show the actual command. Anyway, there you go. So that shows that we actually did successfully create our DML trigger. So we noted in the event of creating we created our DDL trigger. We actually created the DML trigger, and that triggered the DDL trigger. Final test is I'll drop my enrollment insert trigger. Now I can just repeat this again. And of course now we have two events that have been logged into my table, the create trigger and the drop trigger, right? Okay. Any questions about that demo? All right. So I didn't give you this code, but hey, I think it's pretty clear. We walked through it, so that'll give you a bit of a help doing the exercise yourself. And that is probably good for now.